Vahid Vakilifar's Taboor feels too tired for words. It is a film which has had its every communicative, verbal impulse surgically removed like a burst appendix. And what we are left with is a cold, distant, solitary world that cannot feel the immensity of its hopelessness. Our main character is an unnamed motorcyclist whose invisible labor of pest control goes utterly unnoticed by the larger social fabric of Tehran. He is presumably an essential actor in the play of urban design, yet receives no credit or acknowledgement for his efforts. The camera is the only seeing eye which even acknowledges his existence. The motorcyclist, having a medically induced solitary existence, goes out of his way throughout the film to bring aid and support to others. He stops for a stalled out car on the side of the road. He brings an unconscious man back to life by hailing an ambulance to bring him to safety. All are done without thought of recompensation, and there is not even a nascent expression of gratitude or thought towards him. What we see is a helpful civil servant going about his routine, going out of his way to support his community, all completely invisibly, and as a result, he is utterly aimless. Slow cinema is resistant to capitalism and colonialism. Critics, early on, were not a fan of how much it wastes our time. On British shores, this was sparked chiefly by a few articles in the magazine Sight and Sound, and especially its April editorial, Passive Aggressive, by Nick James, who called into question the critical validity and political efficacy of slow films, as they demand great swaths of our precious time. James's piece acted as the major catalyst of a heated and polarized public debate that soon encompassed other media outlets, film critics, and even film scholars, such as Stephen Shaviro, for whom slow cinema was aesthetically retrograde. Slow cinema is, then, a rather recent phenomenon in conceptual terms, and one that furthermore shares its discursive genesis with a much larger socio-cultural movement, whose aim is to rescue extended temporal structures from the accelerated tempo of late capitalism. This flux of stasis and insomnia that our character endures is disrupted when our main character goes into the 5D simulator, our virtual reality gaming device, designed to nurture those pleasures which are so non-existent in the world of Taboor. The film expertly brings us into these feelings of despair, aimlessness, joylessness, into a Lynchian framework that disrupts the viewer's connection to the life of our motorcyclist. His allergy for electromagnetism is easily read as a distaste for modernity. Even in the joy promised in the mining cart game of the 5D simulator, there is an overwhelming sense of decay, pain, and sickness associated with modernity. The more abstract Lynchian and Kubrickian imagery conjures up images of torture photography out of Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay, where innocent detainees were forced to endure electric shocks with bags over their head, all while being humiliated and stripped naked for the joy of their sadistic colonial oppressors in the U.S. Army. Our main character, similarly tortured for the amusement of an off-screen audience, has his head bagged and is shocked in much the same poses as one of the most famous photographs out of Abu Ghraib. This all distills itself, the multiplicity of meanings, the cyclical nature of the film, the exhaustion, the silence and stillness of the image, into an experience that torments the viewer and exhausts their attention in a way completely dissimilar to how slow cinema and stillness has ever operated for me. This is all brought into a head by the current day, which brings our dystopia closer to this fictional world of apathy. Recently, the director of Taboor, Vakilifar, was brought to such desperation for funding one of his films, receiving limited to no support from the Iranian government. He resorted to sell one of his kidneys. He would go under the knife for his films, and that desperation and fatigue is felt so strongly from the movie screen to the Instagram story where he put his organs up for sale, that one begins to wonder where the science fiction ends and where the science reality begins. Slow cinema gives you the space and appreciation to fully inhabit these spaces, to rectify with the loneliness and distance from you and the main character. You are distanced far from the torture in Taboor, much like these scenes of torture in Abu Ghraib were distanced, though not totally obscured, from the public eye in the West. The slow cinema that forces the audience to be bored, to be distanced, to feel a complete lack of immersion into the film, is a cinema that challenges, tests and teases out moments of clarity from this difficulty. The bodily experience of stasis and statuary images are what sets it apart from other cinemas. Like the cinematic freeze frame, ancient statuary stands apart from the supple flow that surrounds and supports it, pregnant with the conditions of a past age, yet while a sense of decay lingers frozen in the death mask. Statues are neither index nor relic. While these sculpted forms of permanence represent an ideal of the infinite, encapsulating an impression of a distant moment, they have themselves endured the gulf of duration that has passed in between, a duration that has seemingly ravaged their surfaces and corrupted their forms. The time spent dwelling in these vacant spaces is decidedly not a waste of time. If anything, it represents an endless time, a deep time in cinema that transcends Hollywood conventions while borrowing from a rich history of long takes and Bazinian neorealism. In keeping the audience at an arm's length, Taboor forces the viewer to connect with the filmmaking in a new way, and hardly in the fattest film festival appreciation, but something grander. What up, squad fam? It's editing Cooper. Just want to say, this one is not funny. So this was a school project that I whipped together in literally one day. That just shows you how based I am and how with it I am. And you wish you were me, really. So, listen to the season of the Serial podcast about Guantanamo Bay if you want to learn more about this. It was a huge source of inspiration and what sort of stirred me on to being interested in this kind of thing. So check that out. Read the New Yorker article and make sure to vote. Bye.